Welcome to God Eternal Bontu. Play against Erebos, so it should be a really nice matchup. As far as opening hand goes, I'd love to keep it, but we don't have a black source, so let's go and mulligan. I know if I kept it, it would not be good. Yes, and we will keep on this. We have Mana Vault, and oh yeah, Autocrat. We'll put that on top in a heartbeat. And our opponent's on the play, so we're going to let them get this rolling. We're playing God Eternal Bontu minutes. Whenever God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of permanents, then draw that many cards. When God Eternal Bontu dies or is put into the exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, third from the top. We are playing against Erebos, God of the Dead, Indestructible Devotion 5. Playing against Erebos, God of the Dead. Sorry, our opponent is a friend of the channel, so they kind of popped up on the message real quick, so I was going to chat with them, and anyway, best of luck to them. Hopefully we have a good matchup today. We go Swamp. And yeah, we'll go ahead and go Mana Vault, just in case there's some sort of hand disruption for our opponent. It's mono black versus mono black, so we don't have to worry about any sort of artifact destruction. And then, yeah, we'll go and pass turn to our opponent. So we're playing against Erebos, God of the Dead. Indestructible Devotion 5 turns into a creature. Then your opponents can't gain life. Now, that will not stop Blood Artist triggers, but it will stop us from getting life. There you go. It's like our opponent knew what I was about to explain. We can't gain life, but we can still at least force our opponent to lose some life. And then I'm not going to pay for Mana Vault, buddy. You're untapped. Don't need to do that. We go Swamp. And let's just cash in a Knight's Whisper at this point. We're going to try to be building up a nice board state for God Eternal Bontu. Oh, look at that. That's exactly what we needed to see off Knight's Whisper. And then outside of the opponents can't gain life, then you can go. Our opponent can go for a 2-mana activation, pay 2 life to draw a card. So now, as far as this Bontu deck, this is a lot of fun. Whenever they spoiled Bontu, I was like, hey, that's an Aristocrats commander right there. So to the people at home keeping score at home, you may be surprised that I'm playing another Aristocrats deck, but hey, it is what it is. Sometimes that just happens. So at this point, we've got 3 Swamp. Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and pass the turn. So we go for 1 more Swamp. That'll put down Autocrat. And then we can go for Ghoul Caller Gissa. We can go for Grey Merchant. Yeah, we got some good stuff that we can get a few more bodies onto the battlefield. Typically, what we're trying to do with this deck is we really want to kind of get the... let's get that close. That Vampire Nighthawk swinging across. But you just want to build up the board state. That way, by the time you get down God Eternal Bontu, you can sacrifice whatever you've developed. And then you can dig for Living Death and bring it all back and rinse and repeat and do it again. And everything's going to be very, very nice. Now, our opponent's not off to a crazy start right now. They've only got 3 swamps. So I think I kind of like doing just a little bit of setting up. So once we kind of develop our mana, we'll be in a really good spot. So we're going to go Worn Power Stone. It's going to enter the battlefield tapped. And that way it's going to put us next turn into a position to where we can at least go Autocrat. We can even go Coffers to start generating a little bit of extra mana. So let's say that we go Coffers and Worn Power Stone. That's 4, that's 8. So at least we can... Expedition map. Now, if they find Urborg, that will certainly help us out. So I doubt they're going to search for Urborg with triple swamps, but you know, it's nice to imagine what would be a really good option after that, because that'll really turn our coffers on. But yeah, you know, once we get that down and get down Autocrat, then we're going to start working towards God Eternal Bontu. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors, MTGOTraders. If you're going to get into Magic Online, let's say whether it's Commander, Legacy, yeah, they got their own coffers coming down. I like it. Whether it's Commander, Legacy, 1 versus 1 Commander, multiplayer Commander, whatever sort of Eternal format you want to get into, Magic Online and MTGOTraders is your #1 source. And also, shout out to inkgaming.com. Use coupon code JOLT to get 10% off your order to help the channel out. Or you can go to inkgaming.com, type in JOLT539 into the search bar, the search area, and you'll be able to see all the cool playmats that I've designed. And last but not least, I've started a Patreon, so if you'd like to contribute to that, there's a link down in the description below. So now, it is officially free time. We can have some fun. So let's go Coffers, and that's going to be 1, 2 off Warren. That's going to be 8 mana that we can generate, up to 11 mana if we want to go for that. So let's say that we go Autocrat with that last mana. Yeah, do we want to end up tapping down Mana Vault? Yeah, I think that's going to be good, because that's going to be 4 card draw. And if we just want to outbury our opponent, that's what we're going to need to do. So yeah, let's do that. Let's go God Eternal Bontu. We've got the mana to untap Mana Vault, so we'll try to do it again. All right, so we're going to go God Eternal Bontu. We're going to sacrifice Autocrat and then all the Surf tokens. Now, here's the downside. Blood Artist being active on our opponent's side of the battlefield, that's going to really kind of complicate some of these these sacrifices. And do you want to just sacrifice Mana Vault just to cash in an extra card draw? Yeah, I think so. That's we've got coffers, so I'm okay with that. That way, we're just not getting pinged by a bunch of damage. All right, so it's going to be a few more Blood Artist triggers. So we do need to find some sort of. And there we go, Obnixilis. So that's going to be a way that we can deal with Obnixilis, and Pitiless Plunderer. And the cool thing about Bontu is that you don't have to just sacrifice creatures. You can see that we sacrificed the Mana Vault after using it. We could have kept Mana Vault around, but I'm feeling this game's going to be a little bit down to the wire, especially Blood Artists out there, so I didn't want to keep getting pinged with that damage. Anything else for 2 mana? No, so we're going to go ahead and pass the turn over to our opponent. And the other cool thing about Bontu is, you draw a bunch of cards, you can basically just dump them into the graveyard, and that's going to make for a really nice Living Death if you can find it. Now, what do we want to get rid of? We're going to get rid of 1 swamp, and I think, is Thrilling Encore something that we really want right now? We're going to have another swamp with Sad Robot once we get that down. Yeah, let's just go and hold on to Thrilling Encore. I think that's good. So we got the swamp for next turn. That's going to be 5. That's going to be 10 mana that we can generate. So we got Obnixilis on Blood Artist. So that way we can at least kind of stop some of those triggers. And that's one of the main difference. If you've gotten into Magic and you don't know the difference between Blood Artist and Zulaport, Zulaport Cutthroat, it doesn't. Whenever a creature on the battlefield dies, it's not going to trigger. It really just cares about creatures on your side of the battlefield. So, and that's what makes Blood Artist so good, is, especially in a deck like we're playing Bontu, if our opponent just gets down to Blood Artist, it's hard for it, kind of complicates things just a little bit. But if we can end up with some good Black Devotion, then we might be able to kind of gain some life and really kind of force some life loss on our opponent. But I'm really excited about this Mono Black matchup, because Mono Black is... It's just really funny that we both get coffers down, so we're kind of mirrored in the same kind of amount of mana that we've got going on. They do need to get a few more swamps going on their side to kind of really take advantage of coffers, but it's fun to play mono. It's almost kind of like playing mono green ramp, but you got a lot of cool things to do. All right, there we go. All I got to do is just start talking about any sort of aristocrat card, and it's going to pop up in our hand, so I like that. We get swamped down for the turn. Yeah, we need to take care of this Blood Artist. It's not going to be good. A lot of respect for Blood Artist. We're going to go Obnixilis. We're going to go for the -3. And we could bring Blood Artist on our side of the battlefield, but that's really not going to matter, especially with God Erebos on the battlefield at this point. So we're not going to worry about that. So it's going to put us down to 17. And I think, let's go Ghoulcaller Gissa, because what we can do is we can go Ghoulcaller Gissa, and then we can sacrifice Bontu and recast it next turn. Yeah, I like that. So let's go and push in with God Eternal. That's going to at least kind of negate some of those lifelink gains from Vampire Nighthawk. It's going to knock them down to 36. That will be 5 total commander damage. We're going to pass the turn. So the other really cool effect is, cards like Ghoulcaller Gissa, you can sacrifice Bontu to end up with those extra zombies, then just kind of recycle those zombies, especially once we get down to something like Zulaport Cutthroat. So that's another... Grave Pact. Okay, now hopefully with Grave Pact, that is a really kind of hard card for us to beat, and especially with us being mono black, but hopefully we can just kind of flood the board with some creatures and not have to worry about that. Now, if we can turn off Devotion to Erebos, we don't have to worry about that creature on the battlefield anymore. There we, there we go. Hey, I was talking about Master Breeder, just like a Ghoulcaller Gissa, and then we can keeps on that same style effect. So let's tap down coffers, and we go for a activation on God Eternal. Actually, let's do this. Let's swing in for 5, because since God Eternal has Menace, they can't stop it. So it'll be a good way for us to get in an extra 5 combat damage, and especially commander damage. That'll put it at 10. Almost going to be halfway there. Puts them down to 33. So now let's go coffers. Let's go for Gissa activation on God Eternal. That'll send God Eternal back to our command zone. That's going to give us 5 zombies. There we go. And I think at this point, we're just looking for kind of like a board wipe. Maybe just kind of hit the reset button. So to recast the God Eternal Bontu, that's going to be 7 mana. So 1, 2, 3. And that's going to give us just enough mana for Zulaport Cutthroat. Now, here's the downside. We're not going to be able to gain life, but at least we can still kind of just force the issue on our opponent. So let's go God Eternal Bontu. And I think at this point, we're just going to sack the entire board over. We'll probably leave up Ghoulcaller Gissa just because it's such a good card. And I think we'll still end up sacking Zulaport. Yeah, because we just want to find ourselves into a a living death as quick as possible. I think that might end up being good. You know what, let's just leave Zulaport cut though. That's you don't want to be too greedy, and that's going to be a really good game in a matchup like this. So let's go and always yield to these Zulaport triggers. And then we still have the land drop to make for the turn, so we're going to go Bajuka Bog, and then exile our opponent's graveyard. That way, if we do end up getting Living Death, we don't have to worry about a Blood Artist anymore, and that'll be pretty good. Now, with Grave Pact on the battlefield, if something does end up happening, let's dump Bloodghast. That way, we just make a land drop and we're good to go. And what else can we get rid of? I like Yehini because it is like at least a hard sack outlet for us to go for. I think at this point, we can just dump. Yeah, we'll get rid of Siphon Flesh. I think that's okay. And actually, yeah, Siphon Flesh, I built this deck for the lounge, and that's kind of one of those cards. Probably not going to be running a 1-versus-1 commanders. You'll probably see that one cut at a later date. But, yeah, this is exactly what we're going to do. If we find Living Death, we can bring these creatures back and then kind of rinse and repeat. Now, our opponent's kind of in a weird spot. You know, if they do swing with Vampire Nighthawk again, that still puts us on this kind of menace game plan with God Eternal Bontu. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed they're not going to be able to sacrifice some creatures. If they do, you know, it's not the end of the world. We can at least get down something like Grey Merchant to kind of start attacking our opponent's life total, sacrifice it. We can always go for a Thrilling Encore to kind of bring it back. So it's not over yet, but it is, if you're keeping score at home, it is getting a little bit more to the risky side. You can kind of move it over there. But yeah, other than that, kind of basically another good thing to take away from Bontu is that you want to have some really extra value cards. You have something that generates some sort of value once it enters the battlefield. You know, whether it's something like Grey Merchant, where you're going to get that devotion. Ooh, Damnation. Okay. Yeah, I think we're fine with that. That's going to reset the board. That's going to send Bontu back. And then, unfortunately, we don't have the mana for Thrilling Encore, but that'd have been pretty good if we did. But yeah, basically, you just want to get some sort of 2-for-1 value. And I've kind of explained that here in a second. All right, so our opponent's going to hit the reset button on the board. Let's bring back God Eternal. Okay, so if we want to build up some devotion, we get the swamp down. We're going to be able to bring back Bloodghast. Yeah, I think I kind of like going for Grey Merchant. Yeah, let's use Bloodghast ability. That's going to be 2 devotion. Let's go Warren Powerstone on coffers. We go Master Breeder. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, we'll just go and tap down, see how much we've got. That's going to put us at 8 mana. So let's say that we go Grey Merchant. Yeah, we can actually go Yehini. And that's going to give us a few more Thrall tokens. And then once we have 7 or more Thralls. All right, so we're going to get down Yehini. And we'll end up having to sacrifice it, but that's okay. We've got the devotion with Grey Merchant. Okay, so we're going to go Grey Merchant. And that's going to be some pretty good devotion. And it's going to be a wonderful setup for God Eternal Bontu. And look how creepy these tokens are. Ugh. I don't really... Now, I've had Edric and Indric in different decks of mine in the past, but... I've never gotten to cast them, and so that's always kind of one of those like, ugh. Alright, so we're just going to swing in with the Yehini. That's going to be a 2-2 coming across. And there we go. It's going to knock him down to 19. And we are definitely primed for God Eternal Bontu for next turn. Even if our opponent does get Grave Pact going, we have all these creepy things on the battlefield, these little Thrall tokens. And so we can, we're definitely in a pretty good spot. And oh yeah, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, getting down some sort of extra value when it enters the battlefield. Even stuff like Phyrexian Rager, just a card that enters the battlefield and allows you to draw a card. Cards like that just really kind of end up giving you a 2-for-1, you know, and especially when you're going to bring them back. Pitiless Plunderer. Technically, it's not a Blood Artist, but, you know, being able to get some treasure. Let's say that we get down Pitiless Plunder, which we certainly can next turn. We sacrifice all of our creatures. That's going to be a lot more treasure tokens, and that's really just going to allow us to kind of cash our tokens in. So even if you just don't go heavy Aristocrats, one thing to keep in mind in building your God Eternal deck is that you kind of want to just build this, you know, kind of this loop between Graveyard and Battlefield and Bontu to where you can just kind of keep that value going. Even something like Skull Clamp on old Bloodghast over there. Now, swinging in next turn, we've got 8 coming across, 10 with Bloodghast. That's going to be 12 with Yehini. That's going to put them down to 7, and then put them down to 5 with Grey Merchant. So they're going to have to get down some sort of board state on their side of the battlefield. And unfortunately, we don't have the mana for Thrilling Encore. They have a board wipe right now. But let's see what they're casting. Okay, Liliana of the Dark Realm. Target creature gets -3. I mean, plus X or minus X. And And the social library for Swamp. Okay, so that's not too bad. You know, that's kind of what we want to see. That does turn on Devotion for Erebos, but once we deal with, if we can swing it at Liliana, then I'll get rid of that Devotion. And if we rip into Blood Artist, you know, we've already been calling the cards that we're going to draw this entire game. So if we hit Blood Artist, we can sack our entire board and kind of go for that. So might end up seeing, that'd be a fun way to kind of close it out. But let's see how our opponent decides to do this. So swinging with Erebos, I think we're going to take it. Or we can just block with one of the Thrall token. Okay, they're not going to swing it. They're going to hold them up on blocking duty, so I like that. Now let's see what we draw into. Draw into Swamp. That's going to give us an additional coffers. And I hesitate to find Urborg with coffers with the Expedition map simply because our opponent has coffers, and I just don't want to make their coffers that much better. Now, what we can do, let's get our mana going. That's going to be 7. God Eternal Bontu is going to be 2 more mana. That's going to give us just enough for Thrilling Encore to bring it back. That's going to be Bloodghast, God Eternal. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and push in. Yeah, let's push it with the entire crew. We're going to attack our opponent. That's going to be Henny, Bloodghast, all of these creatures coming across. And I think we can God Eternal Bontu and Thrilling Encore to bring everything back and get a few extra Devotion. Yeah, I think that might be what we can do. So we're going to go and swing across. This is definitely going to be a pretty good chunk of damage. It's going to be 8, it's 10, that's going to be 14. And that should even it up once we go God Eternal Bontu. So, and they've only got 1 mana left. All right, so it's going to send Grey Merchant to the graveyard. Let's add that mana to our mana pool. Let's go Coffers. Let's go God Eternal Bontu. We're going to sacrifice Yahenni and Bloodghast. I'm going to click OK. That way we can at least just draw in a little bit of extra. And actually, we just go and sack these Thrall tokens. It's really not going to matter. Because we should be able to get the Devotion. But if we're going to play as tight as possible, that's what we would be doing. So we're going to click OK. Get a ton of card draw. Look at that. That looks good. I was hoping to catch an extra mana rock. Let's go Thrilling Encore. Actually, we can go Viscera Seer. That'll be the last little bit of Devotion that we need. We go Viscera Seer, and then we go Thrilling Encore. And that's going to bring everything back on the battlefield. We're looking at 1, 2, 3. Oh, that is just a beautiful Aristocrats win. So you can see where there's just, you know, using the mono black way to kind of generate a ton of card advantage. Oh, look at that. And then Grey Merchant, that's going to be 1. There we go. Put our opponent down to -1, closing the game out. You know, this is one of those decks that even technically it's an Aristocrat deck. You can win with them, but you can see where there's just a lot of shenanigans you can do. We got the Master Breeder, got a lot of Thrall tokens on the battlefield. Sack those and just completely refuel your hand. Like I mentioned earlier in the game, we have the one, I think I mentioned in this game, we have the One-Eyed. So even if we do end up, you know, dumping something into the graveyard, we have One-Eyed to bring it back. There's just a lot of just basically a complete circle between battlefield and graveyard and hand, and that's one of the best things to do in Commander. And unfortunately, opponent got off to a little bit of a slow start on that mana, but that was a good fun matchup, and especially when you get down Grave Pack, that's always a scary card to play against. But if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.